Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to Bricktober, where we talk all things spooky, all things haunted, all things Halloween, one of my favorite times of the year. And today we have something to take a look at. We have the Playmates TMNT Stranger Things 2-pack of Leonardo and 11. And if I said this was a mashup that we were expecting, I would totally be lying, because who would have thought they would have put Stranger Things and TMNT together? And I don't know how this is going to work, and full disclosure before we go on, I've never actually watched Stranger Things. I know, that sounds unbelievable, but the only episode, not even an episode, the only part that I've actually watched is from this season, and that was the Metallica section. That's really it. That's all I watched. So I don't know anything about this side of the package. However, if we flip it over, and by the way, I am familiar with the concept of the Upside Down, and of course, Demogorgon and Vecna, but past that, don't know. But if we flip this side around, I am very familiar with this part of it, which is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the main reason why I got this 2-pack, because this is the original Mirage Turtles. So I thought that with the original Mirage Turtles and a standard human figure, I could use these for civilians, for like my G.I. Joe line or any of my 6-inch lines, and then I would finally have some turtle representation, because the one that I bought, I think it was last year, that was part of like the 2-pack with Rocksteady, and we'll take a look at that to compare them to this. I wasn't real happy with that. I only got the one, and I didn't really get any more after that. But I'm very intrigued about how these are going to turn out. Now, you see we have a very unique packaging system going for that whole Stranger Things motif with the upside down, turtles this way, Stranger Things this way. I do think this is clever. I do think this is cool. I do like it. And then on the back here, we actually have a little explanation of how these all came together. And it's not the worst reasoning for a mashup that I've ever heard, but we have our turtles and we have our Stranger Things. And once again, going with the upside down, that I know 11, and I don't know this guy's name. I think he's the cop. I know he's the cop. Yeah. Kind of looks like a middle-aged version of Chuckles from G.I. Joe, to be honest. These are the only two that they have out right now, along with Leonardo, and I think the other one is Raphael. I think he is. Not entirely sure, but we'll see, because I have that one on order too. This one, as of the time of this recording, this one just came in, so I wanted to get this one open. I wanted to take a look at it, and I wanted to share it with you for our, Bricktober opening. So, without further ado, let's rip into this packaging and take a look at Mirage Comics Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Stranger Things by Playmates. Okay, getting them out of the box, we are going to start with 11, and putting the tape measure to her, we can see that she is roughly 5 7/8 to the top of her hair, nearly 6 inches to the top of her scrunchie, so she's actually much taller than I was expecting. Now, bringing her up close, we're going to take a look at the sculpt, we're going to take a look at the paint apps, and we're going to take a look at the articulation. And the first thing I want to talk about is the face portrait on 11 here, that I really, really like everything that's going on right here. And this is a fairly passable likeness of Millie Bobby Brown at whatever age she was when this season took place. And quite honestly, I don't even know what season this is from. I know it's not the first season, because wasn't she like shaved head, like Natalie Portman in V for Vendetta, everything was shaved off in the first season. So I'm guessing this is second season, maybe even third season. I don't know. Like I said, I don't watch the show. But I think this is a very decent likeness of her, and I really like what they did with the eyes and the paint on the lips, bringing those out. I think this is a really, really good look for her. And then I like her hair, the hair piece going on here, how it gets a little windblown, a little curled at the back with the yellow scrunchie up here. And you can see the lines where like the hair is pulled up, and then this is just resting down on her shoulder. And they also have it on the shoulder, but off the shoulder at the same time, so that it doesn't get in the way of head movement, which we'll take a look at more when we look at the articulation. This shirt, I am absolutely hearing Take On Me in my head right now as I'm watching this, or as I'm looking at this, because this shirt is so incredibly 80s. And I even like the little bit of detail work they did here with like the silver buckles on her suspenders, the silver button on her jeans. You can see that the sleeves are rolled up, bunched up just above the elbows. You can see some wrinkling in the shirt, the collar hanging over the suspenders. Looking around to the back, you can see more of that wrinkling, the detail on the pockets, the belt loops around the jeans. I really like this whole thing. I think they did a really good job with the sculpt and the paint apps. Even this, when I first saw this, I thought this was a watch. But then the more I looked at it, I was thinking, oh man, this is one of those jelly bracelets that we used to have in the 80s. The legs are fairly boring because all she has on is a pair of jeans, and there wasn't much that you could do with those. The coloring is decent. I like the wrinkles in them, the flow to them. But then when we get down here to the shoes, to her feet, I really like how they just kind of bunch up and lay over the shoes very naturally. I like that. I really like the look of that and how they hang a little bit low at the back here. Now, the shoes themselves, the shoes are unfortunately not very detailed. You have some very soft laces in there that you could have done some paint app on the laces to bring those out a little bit. They're way too white. You could have dirtied them up a little or maybe even made them a different color. I don't know if her wearing white shoes is a thing or not, but you could have made these red or something. I don't know. Could have used a little bit more color than just this stark white down here. But all in all, I'm real happy with the look of the figure. The paint apps of the figure, I think, are solid too, especially in this shirt and this little touch of silver that they have on the button and the buckles, and especially the eyes. I'm very fortunate. Mine, the two eyes are looking forward, and they're really well done. Very big, very open, very bright, with those little bit of light reflection in them. I really like this. Now, looking at the articulation, her head will do a full 360. She has some decent tilt side to side. Can't really look up because all of this still gets in the way. Doesn't really look down. I mean, there's forward, so yeah, not a whole lot of down. The arms will do a full 360 spin. There's no butterfly joint in them, but they will come up past 90. There is a hinge and swivel at the elbow. Single jointed hinge at the elbow. Doesn't even come up to 90. The wrists will spin and pivot in and out only. Nothing for ab crunch in the waist. There is a waist twist, as you can see, but there's no side to side. There's no forward and back. It's just twist. If you want to do forward and back, you kind of got to use the hips. And that brings us down to the legs, that the legs will come up. The legs can go back, but they also go out to the side. And speaking of the side, they come up to there. She has a thigh cut, single jointed knee that only comes to there, but there's also a pivot at the knee, which I guess that's supposed to take the place of a boot cut. I don't know. It's a little bit of an awkward joint, but we have it. But then the shoes will also spin. Her ankles will spin. Ankles rock back. Ankles rock way forward, but no side to side. No forward facing pin for rock, just spinning from side to side. Something that I almost forgot as far as Eleven's articulation goes is her power hand here. That while this hand is very open and grippy for some of the accessories, which we'll see in a minute, this hand, her right hand, is up for her using her powers. Fingers splayed out. Almost has like a very X-Men look to it, like the power hands that we've seen from Marvel Legends. Because she's a psychic, right? I'm pretty sure that's her deal, that like she's some sort of experiment number 11, and she's like an all-powerful psychic. So that's kind of cool. Very superhero going on right there. Would go great with some comic lines. And that brings us to the one that you've probably all come to see in the first place, and that is the star of our show, Leonardo. So putting the tape measure to him, we can see that to the top of his head, Leonardo is pretty much 6.5 inches tall. So he's already going to be taller than most of your 6-inch scale figures. Bringing him up close and getting a better look at him, let's get this out of the way right now, that these Mirage Turtles are a completely different sculpt from the bodies that Playmates has been using for, I don't know, how many decades at this point. This is the Leonardo I got from that Mutants 2-pack last summer, I think it was, where he came with Rocksteady, and I wasn't real thrilled with this version of Leonardo. I knew I wasn't going to like the rest of the turtles just because this body, this sculpt, the articulation in this just didn't do it for me. So this is a completely new sculpt. You can see it is a much darker green, and of course, all of the turtles in this line are all going to be wearing a red bandana because that's all what they wore in the original Mirage series. Was they all just wore red. They don't even have any initials on their belts. All of that are tropes from the cartoon in the 80s. This was their original look. And this is a much beefier version of the turtles. Everything from the legs to the arms, the heads are a little bit, more. Whoops. Interestingly enough, though, the torsos are slimmer, and it gives them a really interesting look, and it's a very true look to that original art style of Eastman and Laird's in the 80s, and that is a tail that they have. They originally had tails when the comic first came out. The cartoon took the tails away too, for reasons I'm sure you can figure out right now. But bringing it back up, we're going to take a closer look at these. And of course, we have the side tooth sneer. This is probably going to be the only thing physically that differentiates the three brothers is the head sculpt. I have a feeling that the bodies are going to be completely the same across the board with all four turtles. Well, heck, I think even these ones did that too, that the bodies were exactly the same. Just the head sculpt and their weapons is going to be different. Maybe the markings on them will be different too, because if you notice here, on his undershell, he has some gouges, like he's taken a few hits, whether it was in practice with the rest of the boys or in a fight with the Foot Clan. That on the back, we have some battle damage done to his shell as well. And I even like this greenish brown look for the shell that they have right here. And all of the pads that he's wearing, wrist pad or knee pads, elbow pads, wrist straps, belt, all of it is just brown, like these are all made from leather or things they just had laying around. The head sculpt isn't bad. It's very simple, it's very smooth, but this is what they looked like. It was just a featureless noggin with these red bandanas and just white eyes in a very superhero kind of way. But I also like how they put some expression in there. You can see the brow furrowed, that these turtles are going to be mean. These turtles are going to be ready for business. And then the straps to his mask just blowing in the wind back there. Tension in the neck, like he really is tensed up. He's ready to go. You can see like the musculature in his arms, the musculature in his legs. And he has these big Horkin feet that are very stable, and he can stand solid pretty much no matter where you put him. All right. I really like the look of this. Now let's take a look at the articulation and see if it was any better than the one that we had before. That the head will do a full 360 spin. And truthfully, though, that's about it. There's no tilt. There's a little bit cocking to the side that way, but this way is pretty much limited. He can look up to right about there. Down does not exist. Like that's straightforward, that's down. So yeah, down doesn't really exist for this guy. The arms will do a full 360 spin. They'll come up way past 90. There's no butterfly joint in the shoulder. He has double jointed elbows. That'll get you to there. A little bit past 90. I think the biggest hang up, quite honestly, is the elbow pad right here. That if you took the elbow pad off, or if you cut it off, he would probably have a lot more range of movement in there. But the elbow pad isn't something that you can really slide off. It feels like the elbow pad was put on the joint and then it was pegged in, because it's not going to slide off the arm. And that's a double-edged sword. I like that because it's not going to slide off. You're not going to lose it. But then there's also the point that if you wanted to get more movement out of here and you wanted to take this off, you're going to have to cut it off or unpeg him to get it off. Either way, you're doing some work. You're doing some modification to your figure. So unpegging it could get old real fast, and then that might start to loosen up the joints. Cutting it, you basically ruin it. So for all intents and purposes, unless you're going to do some modification to your turtle, that's where his arms are going to stop. Now, they will pivot, and this is the big disappointment. The wrists pivot they'll spin, but like the big disappointment is they will pivot in and out Come on, guys. He's holding swords. They should be going up and down, not in and out here. Absolutely nothing in the torso. This is a solid piece, and I don't mind that. Usually I would be upset that there's no torso movement, but for the turtles, I don't mind that because while we had torso movement with this model, it just doesn't look as good because you have this cut right in there. And with this big shell on here, you really didn't get much movement out of it anyway. So I don't hate that this is solid. You're not going to have any waist twist at all. The sculpt on everything looks great. So I can live with that. It was a trade-off. I'm sure that was a big decision that was made. Either make it look like this and give you nothing, or go back to a design similar to this. So me personally, and this is going to be a personal opinion across the board, it's going to vary from person to person. Personal opinion, I like this better. Now the legs will come up to there, not very much, but if you turn it sideways, it really kicks out to the side, but you can kind of get it up higher. Going back, it doesn't go back very far at all. He has a ball joint right there at the hip. He has a thigh cut right there that isn't the easiest to navigate because whenever you turn the thigh cut, the ball joint wants to move. But then that's it for how far his leg will come up. 11 can do that better, and he's supposed to be a ninja. They have it out. They have all of this exposed. They have all of this room. Wait. Oh, you can cheat? You can cheat. I didn't even think about that. It makes the thigh cut look a little wonky, but I don't know if you saw what I did. If you do it the way that's supposed to be done, it only comes up to there. However, if you turn this over and then turn the thigh cut, you can get a 90-degree leg on him. This just looks wonky right in there. But you can get it up to 90 degrees if you cheat a little. So putting it back to the way it was, we come down here. He has double jointed knees. Once again, same problem with the pads. I really feel like the knee pads are hindering the movement, that if this wasn't there, he would have a lot more travel out of them. Ankles rock back. Ankles rock way forward. No side to side, but just like 11, they do pivot. Taking a look at the accessories, we're going to start with the walkie-talkie here, and this is so incredibly 80s. Most of us as kids had a set of cheap walkie-talkies like this with the springy antenna, and you have the dials on the inside. The dials that, quite frankly, other than volume, we had no idea what they were supposed to do. Sound came out of here, voice went here. It was the cell phone of the 80s for the kids, and this is hilarious. I remember this so well. It even has the little jack. I think that's what that's supposed to be, the little jack over here that you could plug in a set of headphones and just listen that way instead of having the voice come out of the speaker. And then, of course, we have the big two-finger button on the side here. This thing is fantastic, and I was cracking up when I opened this up. Now, the only one that I think this fits is you can give it to 11, and it fits in her hand. However, the problem is with the limited articulation that she has, she can't really put it up to her head. She can't, like, get a really good talking pose with it. She can just kind of hold it, and that's about it. Okay? Now, Leo, I haven't tried Leo yet. Let me see. Leo here, he has this weird grippy hand that, can you get it in there? It's a little tight, but he can hold on to it. He can get a little bit of a better talk position out of it. Not much better, but at least he can get it up to his head, unlike 11. Another accessory that this pack comes with that is once again so completely 80s that I started laughing again when I opened this up, because I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but everybody had this flashlight in my neighborhood. This metal, silver, ribbed flashlight right here. Used, I think, like 2D batteries. I'm pretty sure Everready, the company that makes Duracell, I'm pretty sure Everready made this flashlight. This was great. My family had two. One for me, one for my brother. This was the metal flashlight of choice before mag lights became popular. And I love the detail that they put into this. You can even see, like, it would have said Ever Ready right there. You can see the push button. This was actually a switch that moved forward, because if you just hit the button, it was on. Let go of the button, it came off. Or you pushed the slide forward and it stayed on all the time. Has a little bit of color right here around the lens. The lens is a real nice silver. Really like the sculpt of this. Really like the look of this. However, let's bring 11 over here. Her hand is too big. The flashlight doesn't really fit real well. See how it just fell out? It doesn't really fit very well into her hand. She can't get a solid grip on it. Okay, now if we bring Leo over, Leo has the same problem. Like, he can get it in right there. It's not a solid grip, but at least he can hold it. But he's a ninja. Why would he be carrying around a flashlight? What I want to try is, and here we have G.I. Joe Classified Snake Eyes. I know it's a ninja. Why would he have a flashlight? But he's the closest 6-inch figure that I have. Let me see if... get in there. Get in there. Grip is kind of tight. Oh, wow. The flashlight is bending, trying to get it in his hand. Up, up. There we go. It's not a bad accessory for the 6-inch figures. So you might be able to use it for that. But yeah, 11 doesn't really fit her hand very well. Doesn't really fit her hand at all, honestly. Next up, we have this Walkman, and this is kind of great. The only thing that I think is a little bit out of time is I don't remember the headphones being this big, and I don't remember them being black. I just remember this being a really thin silver band, and the foam on the earphones was either like orange or red or some bright color like that. The detail on the Walkman, including the arrow that says the tape plays that way, is pretty decent. The paint apps don't have a whole lot going on. You have some buttons on the side here, and then you have this cutout so that this will fit, I guess, into her hand, or you can fit it into Leo's hand. It actually fits Leo better. But, and I've seen this in other reviews, these headphones don't fit either head. That if you try and stretch it to put it on Leo's head, you're going to start ripping the cord, and I don't want to do that. Or if you try and put them on 11's head, they are way too big. So I don't know who these are for or where they came from, but they don't really fit anyone. But now I'm wondering, hold on. Okay, here's our McFarlane Multiverse Black Adam, and you can see that they're even way too big for his head. So I'm guessing these were meant to be used with the Turtles. However, they just don't stretch far enough. And that brings us to this, which is a waffle throwing star. I don't get it. I don't watch Stranger Things. I don't get it. But I do know that Eggo waffles play a role in the show, or at least in the first couple seasons anyway. So here we have an Eggo throwing star. Why not? And it does fit in Leo's hand very well. It fits in this one better because this one is in this semi-open hand. Once again, it looks like that's meant to hold the Walkman, but the headphones just don't fit. But he can get a decent grip on the throwing star. And once again, 11, not so much. She can hold it, but that's really about it. It makes me wonder, what is this gripping hand for? Like, it's too big for the flashlight. It's too small for the Walkman. It seems to fit this perfectly. Is she supposed to be the throwing star expert? Does she carry the Eggo throwing star? And that brings us to the personalized accessories, and this is 11's backpack, and I really like the look of this. I like the color of it. I like the sculpt of it. I like how they have this detail in the back. It's kind of lost because this is black. You even have this little dongle right here that's hanging off, like that's the zipper, and I just noticed that there's a second pocket down here. They did not put any detail on this side, and no, I was checking to see if maybe this popped open like the Valaverse backpacks pop open. But no, that's glued in there. But I do like the look of this. Even has the top handle on it. And the shoulder straps are made so that all you have to do is pull her arms back. Whoops. Pull her arms back, and you can slip this right on. And there you go. And it looks really good on her. Like, it goes with the rest of the color of her sculpt, of her clothes and everything. And I think it looks really cool. And I like how it even sits a little low, just like we would wear them when we were going to school. I really like that. The hair, another reason why the hair sits up, I'm just realizing now, is it stays out of the way of the shoulder straps. This looks great. Like, I can't imagine now not displaying her with the backpack off. Like, this just fits so perfectly. And now, of course, that brings us to Leo's swords. Now, they're called katana in the original comics, but they have a straight back just like Ninjakin. However, the blades are curved a little bit out, which kind of makes them look more like sabers than anything else. I don't know. All I know is I think they look cool. I like the detail work that they put into the hilt right here. I just wish they would have given it better paint apps so that those stand out. And speaking of paint apps, you can see that it's chipped right there. You can see that it's chipped right there. You can see that it's chipped right there. And all I've done with them is take them out of Leo's hand. So the paint on the, oh wow, look at that. The paint on the handles is really cheap. So much to the point that this is probably all going to peel off at some point, and I'm going to have to put my own paint on there. And I'm kind of worried that the design that's in the handle is actually carved into this latex coating. Yeah, because you can see right there where there should be that little ring. There's nothing there, I don't think. That I'm wondering if that design is carved into the latex coating, that when this all eventually peels away and I repaint them myself, it's just going to be a smooth handle. Now, these are much bigger. Let's take a look at these. These are much bigger than the ones that came with the Mutant 2-pack from last summer. But at least these ones, the paint is holding up much better. And I think there's more detail in the handle. And I kind of like the design of the blades. These ones are bigger, and they're definitely more comic accurate for the Mirage comics. But I might like these straight ones better. I don't know. We'll take a look at that later. So that's that. And they're both starting to peel away at the handles, which is really disappointing. I also, another thing that I like, don't mean to like just bag on the handles, but I like how this is sculpted so that it looks like there's an edge to the swords. I really like that. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but there's definitely like a cut in right there, like the blade's been sharpened on each side, and I really like that. Now, this one on his, what is that? On his right hand, it fits very easily. He has a nice tight grip on it. He's not letting go. Now, I was concerned because this hand is more open, but you can also kind of see how there's a secondary notch in there. And I think that's where a lot of the paint is flaking off, that you put it in like that, and then you twist and push it in, and it really locks it into place so that he's not going to let go of either one of these. So he can get a really decent grip on them, and he looks really cool holding them. Now, just because I want to see how this looks, let's take these ones from that original Leonardo that we had. Let's take these out of his hand, and let's put these in. And then once again, we're going for that secondary notch on the inside. And there we go. He can hold these as well. Admittedly, they don't look as cool. Realistically, they're probably more accurate to what he would be wielding. Once again, he has a really good grip on them. So, I don't know, those kind of look cool. Plus it has that hint of blue on there that kind of harkens back to Leo's, to his new, okay, to his iconic color. But these ones just look cool. Something else that's kind of a bummer, and you may have noticed this while we were taking a look at him, especially when I turned him around, he has his swords right here, but he has no sheath. He has nowhere to put them. There's nothing back here for him to wear them either going off in one direction or crossed like he traditionally does. He just always has to hold them. He has no sheaths for his swords, and that is so disappointing. Okay, now for size comparisons, first of all, the two figures that come in the pack side by side, you can see that Leo is much taller than 11. And I don't really mind that. I usually like the turtles to be shorter than humans, but since 11 is supposed to be a kid, I don't really have a problem that Leo's a little taller than her. But putting it next to that Mutant 2 pack that we got, I think it was last year, you can see that the two Leonardos are about the same size. Rocksteady, however, is still, unfortunately, so much shorter than the turtles. Now, putting them next to some 6-inch figures, we have Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Series Snake Eyes and Hasbro Marvel Legends Lady Deathstrike. That Leo's taller than Snake Eyes, and 11 is taller than Deathstrike. So I thought the human figures, at least, were supposed to be on a 6-inch scale, but it doesn't look like they are. Because if this is 11 and she's supposed to be a kid, I'm curious as to how tall the guy is, the cop is going to be when I get him with Raphael or Donnie. I can't remember which turtle he's coming with. Is he basically going to be the same size as her? Is he going to be a little taller than her? I'm really curious to see how this is going to play out because right off the bat, Leo can't be used with the 6-inch line unless you want to go for like a Michael Bay version of the Turtles, where like they're these big hulking things versus normal humans. But she's supposed to be like, is she even in high school or is she in grade school? I have no idea how old she is in the show. But yeah, this doesn't work as well as I had hoped it would. Now, putting them next to some 7-inch figures, here they are with McFarlane Toys Mortal Kombat 11, Scorpion, and Sub Zero. If you mix them in with a 7-inch line, I think both of them will work real well for that. I think Leo and 11 both look really good and fairly size appropriate next to McFarlane's 7-inch figures. And here they are next to Lanyard Toys, City Hunter Predator, and Xenomorph Drone. And once again, I think the scale looks really good with these two as well. Here they are with Jazzware's Spartan Collection, Master Chief, and Spartan Yorori. And finally, here they are with the Mattel Masterverse New Eternia He-Man and me from the Valaverse Action Force Steel Brigade. So this 2-pack is a bit of a mixed bag. Do I like the figures? Yes. Do I think this is the perfect incarnation of the Turtles? No, far from it. The articulation still leaves a little bit to be desired, but I have to admit that this sculpt, this articulation, this look is so much better than the older molds that they used to have. Even just holding it up to that Leonardo that I got in the Mutant 2-pack, I think this version of Leonardo has it all over that one, hands down. It is very disappointing, though, that the paint on the swords is already rubbing off. I can't get past that. That's annoying. But I think the paint apps, as it is on Leo, which is really, when you think about it, just the masks, because I feel like everything is just colored in the plastic that it was molded in, green, yellow, brown, what have you, that I feel like the only paint apps are on the head, in the masks, in the eyes, and in the teeth. So it's a fairly clean, good-looking figure. Up close, you start to see the flaws, but on the shelf, I think it's going to look good. 11 visually looks great. The articulation, once again, leaves a lot to be desired. I'm noticing a trend here, Playmates, but I think the look of her, this is definitely an 80s feel. I think that whole thing is fantastic. I just wish the shoes had a little bit more detail, but that's really more of a personal nitpick than a than affecting the figure overall. The thing that is annoying, though, is that hand doesn't really hold anything. Her only gripping hand doesn't really hold anything very well, except the walkie-talkie, but she can't even bring that up to her mouth to get her in a decent, like, I'm talking into this thing type pose. But I do like 11. The scale, however, is kind of all over the place with these two figures, that I thought these were supposed to be built at a 6-inch scale. 11 is way too big for being, the younger lady that she is supposed to be compared to the 6-inch figures. If you're going to fit them into a 7-inch line, though, I think they look great with the 7-inch line, and they're going to look real good with my DC Multiverse figures. And that's really what I was hoping for, because Batman and TMNT is just a fantastic mix. Now, how is that going to affect the adult human characters that come with the next couple of 2-packs, or at least the one that's coming next where we get the cop? Is he going to be roughly 7 inches tall? Probably not. I have a feeling he's going to be about the same size as 11, height-wise that is. We'll have to wait and see. So while the set does have its flaws, I definitely think this is one of the better offerings Playmates has given us in a long time. And I'm actually looking forward to the next one, though. I'm looking forward to seeing what we're getting with the next one, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming out with the other 2 turtles. I think they're basically still going to be like the kids cast. I'm not very familiar with the show, in case you haven't figured that out. Is there anybody in it other than the kids? I don't know. I'm more looking forward to Donnie, Raph, and Mikey. It would be really cool if we got a final 2-pack with Splinter and Shredder, but we'll have to wait and see what happens there. This is definitely a your mileage will vary thing with these figures. Some people will really like them, others not so much. I'm somewhere in between. I think they look really good on their own, but when you put them with other figures, you start to realize the limitations of the articulation. That's really my biggest hang-up, is the articulation along with the scale, but that is what it is. So what do you think? Let me know. I'm really curious to see how people react to these new sculpts for the turtles, how they like the look of the Mirage turtles, which have always been my favorites. And what do you think of the scale? What are you going to use them for? Let me know. And until next time, my friends, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.